We are talking about the third generation of Toyota Highlander, produced from 2010 to 2013. In fact, this is the second generation, since the 2011 model is just a restyling of its predecessor, which premiered in 2008. But for simplicity, we will assume that there were 4 Highlanders in total. Like the first two, the third Highlander was distinguished by excellent reliability and enviable endurance. Japanese crossovers almost without complaints consumed our gasoline and diesel fuel, stoically endured Russian roads and off-roads, and only occasionally complained about not too straight-handed mechanics. In 2010, the Russian market has not yet recovered from the crisis shocks, but Toyota decided to present the new generation of Highlander in Moscow. The previous two debuted in the USA. For Russia, it was, in fact, the debut of not only the next version of the crossover, but also the model itself. Until that time, either second-hand or, as they say, gray cars traveled across the expanses of our fatherland. They were bought mostly by sane people who prefer goods of good quality, but without any special frills. And they got that quality. Collecting failure statistics for the third-generation Highlander proved to be very difficult. Not because there are few cars, but because the number of failures tends to 0. About Hilux, servicemen could even remember a detached mudguard. And here, nothing. Forums and conferences of drivers did not help either. Toyota, it is also on the moon Toyota. This is the general meaning of the answers to the question about the features of the operation of the model in Russia. But I have heard enough praise and read enough. And our Highlander is comfortable and spacious and not so expensive. At the start of sales, the price was set at 1,757,000 rubles. The units and platform are almost completely borrowed from the Toyota Camry. There was only one engine for Russia, a 3.5-liter V6 2GR FE with a capacity of 270 horsepower with transmission, automatic 6-speed, drive, permanent full. A year later, a cheaper front-wheel drive version with a 2.7-liter 4-cylinder engine appeared, which, however, did not gain much popularity on 1/8 of the land. Although the Toyota Highlander is structurally almost identical to the Lexus RX, some details, in particular, the suspension and chassis, not to mention the body and interior, differ in catalogs and characteristics. This affects the characteristics of the suspension settings and, accordingly, the behavior on the road. Often they refuse to buy a Highlander after a test drive. In terms of driving comfort, the crossover turned out to be somewhat unbalanced. It seems like they wanted to make it in the American style, comfortable and fashionable and sporty. By and large, neither this nor that came out. In corners, the Highlander rolls like a big frame, and on small bumps it shakes like a subcompact. In the same conditions, Lexus behaves noticeably more collected. But the suspension is reliable. There are no problems either with the guide vane or with the shock absorber springs that go beyond natural wear and tear. Unlike older models of Toyota SUVs, brake pads and discs are very tenacious. By the way, they are not too expensive. A set of pads for the front axle will cost 4,000 rubles, for the rear, 3,000. There are no special problems with the transmission. In an excessively sharp ride on an unheated box, twitching may occur when switching, but this is treated by flashing the control module program. But if vibration appears, the matter is more serious. It is necessary to replace the retaining ring of the input shaft bearing. This is the only characteristic malfunction of the U660 box, which was installed on the Highlander until 2013. A loose ring leads to bearing play and premature wear of the friction discs. If the defect is not eliminated in time, the cost of repairing the box will exceed 100,000. It will be necessary to replace the discs, the bearing, and, of course, the ill-fated ring. A transmission of this type is installed on 12 Toyota models, both right-hand drive and left-hand drive, and no problems are expected with spare parts, as well as with qualified service. In addition, the box itself is very simple. The drive is also implemented extremely simply. This is a full-time drive from a transverse engine and a coaxial gearbox, with a long universal joint and without any Visco clutches, locks and limited slip differentials. The role of blocking is played by the traction control system built into the general scheme of vehicle stabilization. The salon can also serve as a reason for refusing to purchase a Toyota Highlander after the first test drive. Yes, the interior is comfortable, spacious, and ergonomic, but the quality of its finishes and equipment clearly do not match the cost of the car. It is difficult to say why this happened. or because the crossover was originally intended primarily for the United States, where slightly harder plastic was never considered a drawback. Or maybe this was done on purpose, with the aim of moving the Highlander somewhat away from the Lexus RX in the market hierarchy. In a word, the interior can somewhat disappoint a sophisticated motorist. However, this has nothing to do with the quality and durability of interior materials. And after 100,000 kilometers you will not hear any squeaks, crackles, and crickets, which, it happens, is in the soft leather chambers of other prestigious models. There are no complaints about the electronic components of the cabin. Of course, there are no perfect cars, and the Highlander has radio setup failures or the navigation system freezes. To correct the situation, such a high-tech technique as turn off and on is often enough. No other disturbances are observed. Consumers are quite satisfied with the dynamics and elasticity of the 3.5 V6 engine. This motor, without any special design changes, is installed on the Camry, and on the RX, and on the Venza. Its main difference from the previous 3.3-liter one is that the timing drive uses an almost eternal chain, and not a weak belt that sooner or later required replacement. Consumption pleases, if you do not gas excessively. In the city, you can get by with 15 liters per 100 kilometers or 20, if you do not hesitate to press the trigger. On the track, less than 10 liters will not work, no matter what the factory specifications say. At one time, Highlander was included in the list of vehicles subject to recall for a service inspection of Toyota vehicles among the 8 million risk group vehicles produced from 2008 to 2011. The problem, if you remember, was with the facts of unmotivated acceleration, which led to a number of serious accidents. The Japanese played it safe, as a result of which nothing like this happened to the Highlander. The crossover motor is not too sensitive to fuel quality, but candles with platinum electrodes are expensive, and it's better not to experiment with dubious gas stations. In addition, replacing the candles of the two extreme cylinders is another circus. In general, if you do not pay attention to the quality of the plastic of the front panel, if an aggressive driving style is alien to you and you need a spacious, reliable car, the Highlander will not disappoint you.